It's my pleasure to introduce our second judge this evening, Karen Tumulty. She's known to many of you in this room. She's a columnist and former national political correspondent for the Washington Post. She writes frequently on issues related to free speech as well as appearing on television. She has both a journalism degree and a Harvard MBA, and she's done distinguished and award-winning work throughout her career, both at Time and the LA Times. She also is somebody who cares deeply about journalism and the critical role of the free press in a democracy, and I know is particularly pleased to be presenting this year's Journalism Award. And I am particularly pleased that this year, which is the year of the student journalist, the judges chose to give the Journalism Award to a student journalist. The truth is that the pressures on student journalists are not new, and they're not uncommon. And they represent the unique vulnerability of student journalists who in many cases are doing the same critical reporting as their professional peers, but without comparable protections. So we're very honored to present Karen to present the Journalism Award.
Thank you, Christie. It was such an honor to be a judge, and an honor and more than a little bit humbling, because this year's winners really are both an inspiration and a reminder that this freedom, which our founders were smart enough to put at the very top of the Bill of Rights, it endures only because there are people who are willing to stand up for it. And in my business, in the news business, we spend a lot of our time these days talking about the problems. And there are people who wonder if, in fact, there even is a future for journalism. And here tonight, we have an answer in 2 words: Grace Marion. In her junior and senior year of high school, Grace was the editor-in-chief of her newspaper, The Playwickian, at Neshaminy. Am I pronouncing that right? High school. Neshaminy, oh, I'm sorry. I can get Langhorne, Pennsylvania right. And she started to investigate some reports that a teacher had been accused of sexual harassment and assault. She pursued this story for a year. She filed open records requests, and she was told that no complaints existed. She didn't give up. She didn't give up because she knew that these records, that these complaints existed. She knew it because she had filed one. So that left her with just 2 possibilities. Either she was being lied to, or these records had been destroyed. So Grace continued to do what the finest journalists do. She didn't take no for an answer. She pressed her sources. She went to the principal. She went to the superintendent. And finally, there was a moment that reminded me of Deep Throat's advice to Woodward and Bernstein when they were told to follow the money. Grace's principal accidentally let slip the key that was going to unlock everything for Grace. He told her the information she was looking for wasn't in the teacher's files. In fact, it was in the files of the students who had made the complaints. In other words, school authorities were essentially trying to cover it up by hiding and moving the records. So against enormous pressure, Grace published what she had learned, and that got the attention of national news organizations. Again and again, she had to fight against censorship in her high school paper. 12 of her articles were censored. She protested when the school authorities demanded that she publish the name of a school mascot that she deemed to be racist. And she has no idea what was said at her high school graduation because she was boycotting it. But her courage and her fortitude have earned her this year's First Amendment Award in the journalism category. And here's the really good news. Grace is now going into her sophomore year at Ole Miss, and she's pursuing a career in reporting. In other words, Grace Marion, who doesn't back down, is just getting started.
I'm sorry, guys, that was way cooler than my speech. First, I want to thank Miss Hefner, or Mrs. Hefner, I'm not sure, my family and a ton of the lawyers in this room and the other journalism professionals, because I totally would have quit the newspaper in 10th grade if I didn't have the support of all of you guys, because it was awful. I don't think that these articles really explain what happened, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the speech that I wrote for the protest that printed on our paper for you guys. Ironically, I will not be at graduation as you read this. The only graduation I will not attend in these 4 years is my own. The only June issue of the newspaper I will not distribute is my last. This is a protest. If it were in the school's nature to admit its mistakes, I would accept that, but it's not, and I'm going to be thousands of miles away as you read this because of that. I will not honor a school that supports the oppression of free speech, of LGBTQ rights, and of the victims of sexual assault and harassment. I will not allow a school that regularly censors its student writers, outs LGBTQ students to their families, and hides the records of sexual misconduct within its walls, claim me or any of my success. For those of you who know me, or the victims of these actions, I am sure it is clear to you why I'm angry. But for those of you who do not, I will explain. Dozens of articles have been cut from the newspaper without reason. Basketball coverage, New Year's Eve resolutions, investigative pieces, anything you could think of has been subject to prior restraint. Our staff has been repeatedly berated for writing these pieces by administration. One newspaper member was outed to his family as homosexual by the Neshaminy administration my freshman year. Another is transgender the same year, and another is bisexual the year after. All for articles Neshaminy didn't like. My father once received a call saying that I would be in physical danger should I publish a certain piece. I was later pulled out of class for about an hour to sit in a room full of adults and have a principal scream at me about how school papers do not have the rights that the Constitution guarantees us all. This wasn't even the first time that I had gotten that speech. This month, I worked on a piece about mishandling of sexual misconduct complaints in Neshaminy. If that piece doesn't appear in here, it will appear in the Courier-Times or the Intelligencer. If I have to, it will be on Facebook and printed out on hundreds of flyers and put in every mailbox in the school district. Now I am trying to come up with what I should write in the yearbooks of my friends I might never see again. I'm mad as hell, but I am still sad for the future I know many of my friends will face in their next few years as newspaper members or even just students at Neshaminy. Now, this published at my graduation, and since that day, nothing has changed. The school has explicitly stated, and the district and the school board members, that they will not investigate, prior review will not change, that principal has been promoted. So I know you guys believe in me, but I didn't really change anything. So please help. I don't know. This is... Thanks.